All right, guys, we have some hard truth and lessons here today to talk about. There is big danger in keeping company with anyone who does any of these three things we are going to discuss today, and I understand your family, like mine, may fall into some of these as well. However, in that case with family specifically, I choose to enjoy their company, but not include them in discussions about financial freedom, investing, and retirement because it's honestly a waste of my time. And more importantly, if I listen to them, instead of doing the other things that I have done, it could very well take me off track. My personal wealth exploded when I eliminated these conversations with family, friends, and I started avoiding anyone who does these three things. Number one, people who ask what if instead of how to. Have you ever noticed with a business idea or anything else of that nature, investing, whatever the case is, people will give you 25 reasons why something won't work and won't even discuss how to actually work around those problems and make it work. People will simply play the what if game to feel safe, to feel comfortable, and think they are doing the most that they can to be the most prudent way possible in regards to their investing, their career, their life, whatever it is, but that actually isn't true at all. What if allows you to stay at home and do nothing and feel like you're on the best course when the reality is you're most likely on the course to nowhere and the riskiest course and the worst course that you could take. You don't break free from the 99% by playing what if all day long. Now, to be very, very clear, I'm not advocating recklessness or not doing proper risk mitigation and due diligence. But sadly, most people never even get to that point and they mistake playing what if for due diligence or risk mitigation, which playing what if is not that at all. They what if it before ever starting proper due diligence on anything, so they end up doing nothing but feel safe and secure. If you seek out solutions, risk mitigation measures, and you do your due diligence, it is very easy to see most disasters and most problems. Identifying a potential problem and seeking how to take care of that problem instead of what ifing it to death makes the difference between those that are highly successful and those that are just okay or stagnating and going nowhere. If an opportunity is presented to you, and instead of immediately going into figuring out how to do it, how to make it work and everything else, instead you list all the ways it won't work, you are the type person that I avoid. Because in the end, it may not be right for you. I agree there 100%. But people who immediately judge that something won't work without doing any due diligence or exploration beyond their gut reaction to an opinion are the ones who typically have missed out on decades of opportunity and call everybody else lucky in the meantime, guys. And I'm sorry, if you're 40 years or older like me, you have lived, this is the opportunities you've missed. You have lived during the longest and greatest bull run ever, all right? You had the best opportunity and you had years to buy that opportunity in real estate for pennies on the dollar after the financial crisis. The greatest real estate opportunity in history happened during our time. And then guess what? After that happened, you could finance and refinance all that real estate that you should have bought for under 3% per property. So you missed out on those opportunities. It's also never been easier to start a side hustle than it is right now, and most of you guys are still in your prime to do that. You were a working adult when it was easy to start social media and build a massive following, yet most of us didn't do it, myself included. I didn't do it until a few years ago. There have been lots of opportunities, life-changing, multi-million dollar, if not billion-dollar opportunities for all of us to take advantage of. But those that didn't take advantage of any of it and instead call everyone who did, quote unquote, lucky because they what ifed it instead of figuring it out. So I personally surround myself with those that say, how can I do it? And when I did that, when I started doing that consistently, and then obviously I just eliminated everything and that's all that I have around me, my mind expanded significantly. But more importantly, my net worth exploded and the world looks like basically a buffet of possibilities that I can take advantage of. It's just a question of which one I want to take advantage of instead of a hopeless dead end with no possibilities in sight. You have to surround yourself with those that say, how can I? And an even larger world of incredible opportunity opens up to you. But if you hang around with the what if folks, prepare to be in the same spot or a similar spot for years or really forever. And that's just the first reason, guys. The next group that I avoid is people who have never done. So how many times in your life does somebody tell you something won't work, but they've never done it before, right? Like I've always been told real estate is dangerous, but the folks that tell me that have never owned a single rental property or ever flipped a house or ever done anything in real estate outside of buy their own home for their own family. That's it. How many times does someone say it's scary to go overseas, but they've never actually been there before? Or that it's a bad idea to start a business, but yet they've never started one. And when they finally did try it one time, they halfway did it and did it for a few months. And oh, well, it didn't work. I guess being an entrepreneur just isn't for me. I'm not saying that those folks telling you that thing have bad intentions. As a matter of fact, it's actually far from that. They actually have good intentions most of the time, especially when it's family and loved ones. But good intentions don't negate the fact that they have no clue what they're talking about and they're actually completely wrong. In my experience, working a job is far riskier than starting a business long term. I have done both many times, and I can assure you one is far riskier than the other one. Just kind of keep this quote in mind. This is kind of something I keep in mind to kind of help myself out with starting a business. The only failed entrepreneur is one that quits or doesn't learn instead of learning the lesson and moving forward. That's it. That's the difference between success and failure. I have been involved in real estate on every level for over 20 years now, and it is far less dangerous than living paycheck to paycheck or blindly trusting your 401k or whatever the heck the other things are out there, just simply buying a house and holding it and not even looking at real estate investing at all. I've done both, and statistically, it doesn't work out in your favor not getting involved. So I house hack currently, which anyone can do today. But most people will not even Google it. And then when they do, they will, yeah, but that doesn't work for me or my family. Or what if you have bad tenants? Or what if everything, what ifs, like we just talked about, they want to throw out there so they can stay right where they're at and stay comfortable and not get outside themselves instead of taking action and actually learning how to do it. Same thing with being overseas. I have been overseas many, many times to many different countries, and I'm actually going to live overseas for a variety of reasons in the very near future most of the time. And guess what? I feel less safe in most areas in the US than I do in Europe or Asia, for example. But yet family and most of my friends in the US swear it is so dangerous in Europe and Asia, despite the fact that my experience tells me that's not true. And the actual data proving the exact opposite is true. But yet people believe just basic falsehoods then around those sorts of things. So that's why I stay away from it. And number 3, most people lack accountability. Sadly, this is true more so today than ever. People think it's the politicians are the reason they are in the spot they are in, or it's the economy or some other force that they have no control over, so therefore there's nothing that they can do. People blame everyone for everything without ever taking a look at themselves first. Now, conversely, once I started doing this, I saw high levels of success when I started blaming myself for everything. And so do the vast majority of successful folks out there. Now, I'm not talking about the reality TV or the internet stars or social media folks. I'm talking about the day-to-day real millionaires, successful CEOs and, successful business owners and other folks like that eventually learn that lesson and they learn to actually take the blame. No, I'm sorry, pointing out the occasional CEO or celebrity who blames everyone else while ignoring the thousands that don't doesn't prove you're justified in acting like the successful. I talk to those folks. I attend various masterminds with folks on those levels or significantly higher levels than I'm on. And guess what? I never hear things like, I would do better, but this, administration is why my business is struggling. I hear people saying that all the time in real life, on a plane, family members, social media, everywhere. But get in a room with successful people and they are successful regardless of who is in charge or what party's doing what or whatever the case is. They came to those masterminds not to blame politicians, but to find solutions because they do exist and because they are accountable and they are willing to ask others to help so they can make changes in their business, so they can make changes to what they do and how they navigate the changing waters that are out there in regards to the political climates and geopolitical and all the other, the economy, everything else that goes on out there. They're trying to figure out how to solve those problems, not trying to figure out who's to blame. Big difference there between the two. So a thing that helped me out a ton was I read Jocko's book, Extreme Leadership. If you want to understand how a successful person thinks about accountability, it is one of the most blunt examples of it, and it's impossible to deny. Now, I'm not sponsored. I have nothing to do with it, but it's an outstanding book that gives incredible insight into how even things that are not in your control, you can still take ownership of some part of it. You still control how you react to something happening to you, right? You made a decision somewhere along the way to get yourself to that point where something happens. Now you control how you react to that. When you are around people who lack accountability, you cannot help but let those excuses and all the reasons for their lack of success permeate into your subconscious and start affecting your thinking. You ever notice, here's another example. You ever notice that fit people, people are in great shape tend to hang around other folks who are in great shape, and unhealthy people tend to hang around each other as well. Because guess what? You won't be fit for long hanging around people who eat and drink trash and don't work out and don't share those same lifestyles and those beliefs. How many people blame everything except for their own lack of activity and poor diet for their weight gain, right? Blame the work, blame their genetics, blame, 1,000 other things, stress, whatever the case is. And I'm not saying they're not all contributing factors, but it's not the primary reason. Now, I'm not talking about situations either where it's temporary because you got an injury, right? Where you were in a coma or something of that nature, or had back surgery or whatever the case is, or, a lady that just had a baby or something of that nature, where they are, basically temporary situations that happen that create those circumstances. I'm talking about day-to-day people who just aren't losing weight and getting, more and more out of shape as they age. When you ask how many times they worked out that week, they list off the normal excuses because the answer is usually 0 or 1 or 2. And when you ask about their diet, it's generally not the best. And it's typically, they're forgetting a lot of things too, right? That's included in there. Now, I agree, our food source here in the US sucks, but it's still, in the end, calories in and calories burn and getting as high quality calories as you can. And you are either consistent with your diet and your workouts, or you are erratic and you're on for 2 weeks, you're off for 2 weeks, whatever the case is. Either way, you're not going to get there. It all comes down to accountability and taking responsibility. And I want to be surrounded by those types of people who take responsibility and have accountability, because when I have a problem to solve, when I need advice, when I need help in my businesses, my investing, my personal life, whatever the case is, those types of people give me actual solutions that aren't always easy. They may very well include a ton of hard work, and they absolutely probably are going to make me very uncomfortable, and it's very much an unknown, but it always solves the problem. You hang around people who lack accountability, you will simply be told excuses from those folks and why it's not your fault, meaning you will never actually solve the problem and never move on to bigger and better things. So I want to succeed and move on to bigger and better things, and avoiding these types of people has led me to more success and proven to be the right choice. And that is exactly what I want for all of you guys out there. That's why I made this video today. I know it was a bit harsh and it was a bit different than a lot of the things that I do, but you got to have these things and you got to surround yourself with these type folks in order to get yourself there. That's what we have in the Blacklist Financial Freedom Program, folks that have taken action, don't make excuses, and have done it. Obviously in my stock investing group as well. That's exactly what we do in there. Either way, you don't have to join any of those. Simply start with yourself with these 3 and start working on those is all you need to do. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.